Father Knows Best painted the picture of an ideal American family in the 1950s, filled with warm smiles and wholesome values. But away from the glow of the Anderson household, the real lives of its stars were marked by heartbreak, struggles with depression, addiction, and even tragic accidents. Today, we uncover those untold stories and honor the lasting legacies they left behind. Let's begin. Robert Young as Jim Anderson. Robert George Young was born on February the 22nd, 1907 in Chicago to an Irish immigrant father and an American mother. In 1954, at the age of 47, he stepped into the role of Jim Anderson on Father Knows Best, a character who quickly became the nation's picture of the ideal American father, admired and trusted by millions. But away from the cameras, Young was haunted by inner battles few could have guessed. Throughout his career, spanning from his 1941 breakthrough in H.M. Pullum Esquire to the long-running success of Marcus Welby, Maryland. From 1969 to 1976, he fought crippling depression and alcoholism. His despair grew so deep that he turned to sedatives, and in the 1960s, even suggested a suicide pact to his wife, Elizabeth, who refused. Their marriage, strained by emotional distance and rumors of infidelity, endured nonetheless for 61 years until her death in 1994. On set, his mental health struggles sometimes erupted, creating unpredictable moments that unsettled cast and crew. Still, studios worked hard to protect his image as the flawless TV father. Later in life, however, Young used his experiences to become a strong advocate for mental health awareness, helping advance the Illinois 7008 tax law, which funded community mental health programs. On July 21, 1998, Robert Young passed away at his home in Westlake Village, California, from respiratory failure at the age of 91. By then, he had left behind an estate valued at around $5 million, and his contributions to entertainment were commemorated with 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Jane Wyatt as Margaret Anderson. Jane Waddington. Wyatt was born on August 12, 1910, in New Jersey, and raised in Manhattan within an intellectually prominent family. In 1954, at the age of 44, she took on the role of Margaret Anderson in Father Knows Best, embodying the perfect nurturing mother adored by millions of viewers. Her portrayal made Margaret a lasting symbol of sacrifice and forgiveness, earning Wyatt 3 consecutive Emmy Awards and cementing her place in American television history. Yet, away from the screen, Wyatt's life carried its own burdens. At the peak of her career, she openly criticized the House Un-American Activities Committee and its anti-communist investigations. Her stance led to blacklisting, boycotts, and the loss of many contracts, which plunged her into financial hardship. To sustain her craft, Wyatt returned to the New York stage, appearing in The Autumn Garden alongside Frederick March, all while enduring public scrutiny and personal strain. Her marriage to Edgar Bethune-Ward, often perceived as stable, was not without turmoil. Political and religious disagreements created long stretches of distance between them, even as they maintained the appearance of unity. Despite these struggles, Wyatt continued to shine, notably as Amanda Grayson, Spock's mother, in the Star Trek episode Journey to Babel, 1967. And reprised the role nearly 2 decades later in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, 1986. A quiet but powerful reminder of her enduring talent. In her later years, Wyatt suffered a mild stroke in the 1990s but recovered and gradually withdrew from public life, choosing a quieter existence surrounded by her children and grandchildren. On October 20th, 2006, she passed away peacefully in Bel Air, California, at the age of 96. At the time of her death, Her estate was valued at around $4 million, built from her acting career and family investments. Vivi Janis as Myrtle Davis. Vivian Audrey Jameson, better known by her stage name Vivi Janis, was born on May 29, 1911, in Omaha, Nebraska. At 43, she joined Father Knows Best, 1954, as Myrtle Davis, the chatty but endearing neighbor whose humor and warmth resonated with audiences. Yet, behind her bright on-screen presence, Janis's personal life was far more troubled. Her first marriage to actor Robert Cummings ended in divorce, and her second marriage to John Larch was marked by rumors of heated arguments and even suggestions of domestic violence, though never confirmed. In her career, Janis often struggled with jealousy and insecurity, refusing to work alongside younger actresses she feared would overshadow her. This led to frequent conflicts on set. During the making of The Phantom from 10,000 Leagues, 1955, she openly voiced dissatisfaction with her role and was eventually sidelined, wounding her pride. Meanwhile, the radio career that had once brought her recognition gradually faded as the industry shifted toward fresher, younger talent, leaving her increasingly isolated and burdened by the sting of being forgotten. Even on Father Knows Best, she once threatened to quit over limited screen time, straining her relationship with the production team and further dimming her professional reputation. On September 7, 1988, Vivi Janis passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 77. At the time of her death, her estate was valued at only about $500,000, drawn from years of work in radio, television, and supporting stage roles. She left behind a legacy marked by both laughter and sorrow, a life of talent overshadowed by insecurities and struggles. Robert Folk as Ed Davis. Robert C. Folk, born on May 5, 1908, in Omaha, Nebraska, was 46 years old when he appeared in Father Knows Best, 1954, as Ed Davis, the warm and witty friend of the Anderson family. On screen, he radiated humor and approachability, but his real life told a far more complicated story. With his tall stature and commanding presence, Seafolk gained a reputation behind the scenes for being overbearing, even earning the nickname the Sheriff for the way he allegedly intimidated supporting actors and crew. His first marriage to actress Alice Frost was considered unconventional, surrounded by rumors of mutual extramarital affairs in the 1950s that created a strained household. On the set of The Left-Handed Gun, 1958, Seafolk's arrogance and temper drew criticism, further damaging his professional relationships. Though his second marriage to Barbara Slater brought more stability, he could not escape his lifelong gambling addiction. To cover his mounting debts, he took scattered television roles, including small appearances in Green Acres and Bonanza. By the late 1960s, his addiction had pushed him to the brink of bankruptcy, forcing him to abandon promising opportunities and accept only minor roles. His stubborn, uncompromising personality made it difficult for him to adapt to the rapidly evolving Hollywood landscape, leaving his career in steady decline. On February 25, 1989, Robert Seafolk passed away in Los Angeles from heart disease at the age of 80. At the time of his death, his net worth had dwindled to about $300,000, much of it lost to gambling, a sobering end to a career that could have been far greater. Harry Hickox as Verl Carson. Harry Milton Hickox was born on October 22, 1910, in Big Spring, Texas. At 44, he joined Father Knows Best, 1955, as Verl Carson, the steady and dependable neighbor, always ready to lend a hand to the Anderson family. On screen, audiences admired him for his calm and sincere presence. But behind the curtain, his personal life was far more turbulent. Hickox long aspired to make a name for himself on Broadway, yet repeated failures left him bitter and perpetually dissatisfied. By the 1960s, his reputation took a major hit when he faced accusations of embezzlement while managing a community theater group. Though never convicted, the scandal shadowed his career. His professional struggles were compounded by personal demons. While working on The Music Man, 1962, his drinking problem and volatile temper led to heated arguments with the director, at times so severe that he was ejected from rehearsals. Word of his behavior spread quickly, staining his reputation within the industry. Hickox's marriage to Mary Louise McConnell, which lasted 50 years, was also troubled. The couple endured periods of public separation, and rumors circulated of his alleged affair with a young jazz singer. He even promised to leave his wife at one point, but never did, leaving deep scars within the marriage. Despite the turmoil, Hickox continued to work, appearing in films like The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, 1966. Still, the scandals and personal controversies never fully faded. On June 3, 1994, Harry Hickox passed away in Los Angeles from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease at the age of 83. At the time of his death, his estate was valued at just $200,000, much of it diminished by legal troubles and years of undisciplined living. A stark contrast to the wholesome image he once portrayed on television. Sam Flint as Mr. Armstead. Sam Flint, born Samuel A. Etheridge, on October 19, 1882, in Gwinnett County, Georgia, was 74 years old when he appeared in Father Knows Best, 1956, as Mr. Armstead, a courteous gentleman whose quiet dignity left audiences with a lasting impression. On screen, he was admired as a symbol of integrity and seriousness. Off-screen, however, his life was marked by conflict, loneliness, and disappointment. In the 1930s, Flint's career suffered a serious blow when he was blacklisted by certain theater companies after crudely insulting a fellow actress by comparing her to a cold cream jar. The incident stained his reputation, and his controlling personality only made matters worse. Known for his harsh tone and domineering behavior, he gradually alienated colleagues and friends, which forced him to rely on small supporting roles just to stay active, such as his minor part in It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. His personal life was equally stormy. Flint's marriage to Ella Etheridge was fraught with conflict, as he was infamous for insisting that he would only accept work if his wife was also given a role. This rigid demand isolated the couple from much of the artistic community. Later in life, things grew even more strained when rumors suggested Flint had severed ties with his own children after a bitter argument, reportedly even disinheriting one, leaving lasting wounds within his family. By the late 1960s, his career had all but faded, with one of his final appearances being a small role in Head, 1968, with the Monkees, a faint attempt to hold on to past recognition. On October 17, 1980, just 2 days shy of his 98th birthday, Sam Flint passed away in Los Angeles from undisclosed causes. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at only around $100,000, reflecting a life of professional struggles, personal estrangement, and a career that never fully lived up to its promise. William Fawcett as Mr. Trumbull. William Fawcett Thompson, born on September 8, 1894 in Georgia, was 60 years old when he appeared in Father Knows Best, 1954, as Mr. Trumbull, a quirky yet warm-hearted character who gave audiences moments of gentle humor and kindness. On screen, he was admired as a wise and good-natured figure. In real life, however, Thompson was far more complex, with a moody and suspicious temperament that unsettled many around him. Though highly educated and often addressed as Doc after earning his doctorate, Thompson's career carried shadows. Early on, he was suspended from teaching following allegations of inappropriate conduct with students, a scandal that was never fully resolved. The matter was largely quieted at the time, in part because he was a decorated war veteran who had been awarded the Legion of Honor. As his acting career developed, with appearances in projects like Soul Uprising, 1955, and The Comancheros, 1961, Thompson became known for his odd habits. He often carried a revolver, convinced he was in constant danger, and once publicly accused a stagehand of sabotaging his belongings. Such paranoia created tension on sets and made colleagues wary of him. These tendencies also seeped into his personal life. Thompson became increasingly isolated, reportedly going more than a decade without contact with his children before falling ill. Despite a prolific career with hundreds of screen appearances, including his recognizable role as Pete Wilkie in Fury, he never managed to build a reliable circle of close friends, living much of his later life in guarded solitude. On January the 25th, 1974, William Fawcett Thompson died of heart disease in Sherman Oaks, California, at the age of 79. His net worth at the time was estimated at just $150,000. He was laid to rest at Roselawn Cemetery in Minnesota, near a veterans memorial marker, leaving behind a life marked as much by suspicion and loneliness as by the roles that made him a familiar face to audiences. Eleanor Audley as Bookstacker. Eleanor Audley, born Eleanor Zellman, on November 19, 1905, in Newark, New Jersey, was 51 years old when she appeared in Father Knows Best, 1956, as the Bookstacker, a small role, yet one that stood out for its composed and dignified presence. On screen, Audley projected an air of authority and refinement, but behind that polished exterior was a life filled with secrets and struggles. She became best known for her unforgettable voice, famously bringing to life two of Disney's most iconic villains, Lady Tremaine in Cinderella, 1950, and Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, 1959. While these roles cemented her place in animation history, Audley's perfectionism and sharp temperament often strained her professional relationships. Colleagues recalled her scolding a young actress over a minor pronunciation slip, creating tense atmospheres in recording sessions. By the late 1960s, her reputation for being difficult led to her removal from a major project, halting her momentum and leaving her increasingly isolated from the industry she had helped shape. Her private life mirrored her professional challenges. Audley never married and lived much of her life in seclusion. Rumors persisted about a secret relationship with a female costume designer. Though in an era of strict social taboos, such matters were never openly discussed. Over time, loneliness and suspicion deepened her reclusiveness, and in her later years, she rarely left her home despite the fame and recognition her Disney roles continued to bring. On November the 25th, 1991, Eleanor Audley passed away in Los Angeles from respiratory failure at the age of 86. At the time of her death, her estate was valued at roughly $1 million, much of it earned from her iconic voice work. Her legacy remains a striking paradox, one of timeless brilliance on screen and in sound, yet shadowed by isolation and solitude in her personal life. Once, Roger Smith as Doyle Hobbs. Roger Laverne Smith was born on December 18, 1932, in Southgate, California. At just 22, he appeared in Father Knows Best, 1956, as Doyle Hobbs, a young, elegant, and ambitious man whose handsome looks and confident presence left a lasting impression. Though his role was brief, it marked the start of a promising career in American television. Smith soon rose to greater fame with his portrayal of Jeff Spencer in 77 Sunset Strip. However, his trajectory was disrupted in the early 1960s when a blood clot in his brain nearly claimed his life, leaving lasting health complications and contributing to periods of mental instability. While filming Meister Roberts, 1965-1966, he struggled with depression and mood swings, which at times created tension with producers. Later, Smith shifted his focus to managing the career of his wife, movie star Anne Margaret. This role brought its own challenges, with rumors suggesting he was overly controlling, fueling conflicts that the public could only speculate about. By the late 1970s, he largely withdrew from Hollywood, living quietly behind the scenes, reportedly attending rehab, and dedicating himself to supporting Anne Margaret's career. On June 4, 2017, Roger Smith passed away in Sherman Oaks, Los Angeles, from complications of myasthenia gravis at the age of 84. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $2 million, earned through both his acting work and his decades-long management of his wife's career. Claudia Breyer as Miss Woodruff. Born Hortense Risley on May 18, 1918, in Oklahoma, was 38 years old when she appeared in Father Knows Best, 1956, as Miss Woodruff, a strict but well-meaning character whose dignified and determined presence left an impression despite the role's brevity. Though a minor part, it reflected the mature, steady acting style that defined Breyer's career. Born to a family with a congressman father and later marrying actor Paul Breyer, Claudia often feared being overshadowed by the fame of those around her. This insecurity led to multiple clashes with producers over being typecast into supporting roles. Even as late as Psycho II, 1983, she worried her work would be quickly forgotten by audiences. Her reserved and sometimes cold demeanor further alienated her from colleagues, and her relationship with her son, musician Paul Barreri, was strained due to his bohemian, free-spirited lifestyle. In her later years, Breyer became increasingly paranoid, convinced that former colleagues were conspiring to keep her from appearing on screen. On June 16, 2011, Claudia Breyer passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 93. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at around $200,000, largely accumulated from supporting roles and modest savings, leaving behind a legacy of quiet dedication to her craft. Ludwig Stoll as Hans. Ludwig Stoll was born on February 12, 1883, in Austria, and was 71 when he appeared in Father Knows Best, 1956, as Hans, a calm and intelligent European immigrant haunted by memories of war. On screen, Hans symbolized wisdom and quiet optimism, but Stoll's real life was marked by profound trauma. Having been imprisoned several times in Austria during the rise of the Nazis, he narrowly escaped to America, carrying the psychological scars of those dark years. Early in Hollywood, Stoll struggled with poverty, taking small supporting roles despite having once held a solid position on the Berlin stage. Even after gaining recognition in films like Casablanca, 1942, he remained deeply insecure. Colleagues often remarked on his paranoia. He would lock his dressing room and remain wary of those around him. He later appeared in Pride of the Yankees, 1942, and Call Me Madame, 1953. But his fear of betrayal sometimes made his temperament volatile, leading to outbursts peppered with German curses on set. Toward the end of his life, Stoll withdrew almost entirely, refusing interviews out of suspicion that the press would distort his past, even while audiences fondly remembered his wine commercial slogan, "That little old winemaker me." His isolation cost him friendships, and he spent his final years living quietly in his Beverly Hills home, speaking only to a few close relatives. On January 29, 1973, Ludwig Stoyl passed away from natural causes at the age of 89, just 2 weeks shy of his 90th birthday. His remains were cremated at Hollywood Forever Cemetery and returned to Vienna, closing the chapter on a life marked by courage and resilience. At the time of his death, his net worth was approximately $100,000, a modest sum for a career full of both hardship and lasting contributions to American cinema. Henry Kolke as Max. Henry Kolke was born on August 11, 1911, in New York and joined Father Knows Best in 1955 at the age of 43, playing Max, a strong, somewhat clumsy, yet sincere character inspired by the image of the fearsome wrestler Bomber Kolkovich. On screen, Kolke charmed audiences with his humor and physical presence, but off-screen, his life was marked by instability and turbulence. After achieving success in wrestling throughout South America, Kolke struggled to transition to Hollywood. Roles that didn't highlight his physical prowess often left him frustrated, sometimes resulting in explosive behavior. Reports surfaced of him destroying a co-star's costume in a fit of rage and being banned from several popular bars for aggressive conduct. His personal life was equally troubled. A short-lived marriage ended amid rumors of domestic violence, and he was said to have an unacknowledged child in Mexico, further complicating his reputation. Despite these challenges, Kolke maintained his career through shows like The Life of Riley, 1953 and 1958, and Hennessy, 1959-1962, relying on his tough guy persona and rare charisma to stay relevant. On February 12, 1965, Henry Kolke died suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 53 while arguing over a script. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at only $50,000, a modest sum that reflected a career filled with both accomplishments and the turbulence of an uncontrolled lifestyle. Donald Curtis as Eddie Gilbert. Donald Curtis, born Curtis D. Rudolph on February the 27th, 1915, in Spokane, Washington, joined Father Knows Best in 1954 at age 39, playing Eddie Gilbert, a sophisticated and confident character that mirrored parts of his own complex life. Curtis's background was unconventional. He began in academia, transitioned into acting, and later became a religious preacher, creating both an artistic career and a controversial spiritual movement. After leaving the film industry, he led spiritual science churches, but faced accusations of exploiting followers' trust to solicit large donations for universal alignment. He was also rumored to have run a failed spiritual retreat in the Mojave Desert, leaving participants financially hurt, though he was never formally prosecuted. In his acting career, Curtis appeared on Broadway and in Caribbean Carnival, 1947, as well as the television series Detective's Wife, 1950. However, his unpredictable temperament, storming off sets and openly criticizing directors, made producers wary. Close associates noted the contradiction between his preaching of calmness and his own volatile behavior. Donald Curtis passed away in 1997 at the age of 82 from undisclosed causes. At the time of his death, his estate was valued at roughly $200,000, accumulated through both acting and his religious work. His legacy remains one of both admiration and controversy, reflecting a life lived at the intersection of art and spirituality. Eleanor Donahue as Betty Anderson. Eleanor Donahue was born on April 19, 1937, in Tacoma, Washington. and made her television debut in 1954 at just 17 years old, portraying Betty Anderson, the intelligent and graceful eldest daughter in Father Knows Best. Betty became an emblem of the ideal 1950s American girl, bringing Donahue fame but also tethering her to that good girl image, a shadow she struggled to escape for years. In the 1960s, she sought to redefine herself with roles on The Andy Griffith Show and The Odd Couple. Yet constant comparisons and audience expectations often left her feeling frustrated and on the verge of leaving acting altogether. Her first marriage ended while she was still young, leaving emotional scars that compounded the pressures of fame. Later, Donaga remarried producer Harry Aki, had 3 more children, and built a more stable personal life. She continued acting in shows such as Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and occasionally revisited the Betty Anderson persona in nostalgia projects, both honoring her past and releasing its weight. As of 2025, Eleanor Donaghue remains healthy at 88, occasionally attending fan events for Father Knows Best. Celebrated for her grace and professionalism, she has an estimated net worth of around $3 million, reflecting a career defined by resilience, passion, and a lifelong dedication to acting. Billy Gray as Bud Anderson. William Thomas Orono Gray was born on January 13, 1938, in Los Angeles, and took on the role of Bud Anderson, the clever and energetic middle son in Father Knows Best. At just 16 years old, Bud became the archetype of the ideal American teenager during the show's run from 1954 to 1960. Behind the camera, however, Gray's reality was far from idyllic. Filming left him with a childhood unlike most, with rushed schooling in makeshift tents and a sense of isolation amidst fame. Just 2 years after the show ended, he shocked the public with an arrest for marijuana possession in 1962 and admitted to using stimulants since age 15, meaning during his years on set. This revelation shattered the wholesome Bud image and stalled his film career, forcing him to carve out a new path. In the 1970s, Gray turned to high-speed motorcycle racing, gaining recognition as both a racer and inventor, ultimately finding success with the F1 guitar pick, prized by musicians. He was candid about his frustrations with the entertainment industry, criticizing Father Knows Best for its unrealistic portrayal of family life and the pressures it imposed on him. 2 failed marriages reinforced his rebellious streak, helping him break free from the perfect teen image. As of 2025, Billy Gray is 87, living in his Tanga, California home purchased during his Father Knows Best years. He devotes his time to business, motorcycle collecting, and cherishing his independence. His estimated net worth is around $2 million, reflecting a life of resilience shaped by both struggles and achievements. The stories of the Father Knows Best cast reveal the stark contrast between the radiant on-screen world and the hidden, often tragic realities behind it. Which character was your favorite? And how did learning their true stories change your perspective? Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for more behind-the-scenes secrets